and welcome to the Scuttlebutt. This is the show where we learn from the most interesting and successful veterans. I'm your host, Brock Briggs, and today I'm speaking with Vic De La Flor. Vic is in his last year of 20 years of service in the Marine Corps, and we have an open brainstorm and discussion around his transition. We talk about some of the challenges he's facing, how he's learning from his exit, and some of the resources he's building in the process. We also talk about his entrepreneurial spirit. Vic has had several side gigs over the years, including being a top seller on eBay, heat pressing uniforms for teams on base, and selling over 10,000 units of Undercover clip, a clip that sits in your 8-point cover and holds your sunglasses for you. This episode has some great insight into the transition process and how to think about the problems that need to be solved if you've got that entrepreneurial bug. Please enjoy this conversation with Vic De La Flor. Victor, you're coming up on like your last year in the Marine Corps, and with 20 years about to be under your belt, I think that the most appropriate place to start would be, what are your biggest takeaways or like the biggest lessons learned from the last 20 years in the Corps?
Biggest lessons learned. It's definitely going to revolve around leadership, right? I've learned a lot of lessons coming up from, I guess I have a big view from the enlisted side and the officer side, right? So a big part of that is the leadership side. How do you appropriately lead your young Marines to get them to want to do something for you, right? Not, you don't want to force them to do something. You want them to do it out of the goodness of their heart. That's probably a big takeaway. I mean, I've had, as most anybody has who has worked in the military, had good leadership, bad leadership, and you got to just take the good with the good and take the bad with the bad and just kind of make your own style, right? So that's probably the biggest takeaway, aside from training and operations and things like that. I mean, leadership is probably the biggest thing, because you're going to encounter difficulties with leading folks. You have to know how to maneuver these things. If not, you're not going to be effective, and you want to earn that respect too. You want to be in there, in the grind with your fellow Marines, with your junior Marines, or else you're not going to earn that respect. So it's more of like a, how can I put it? You want to do it with them, not a do as I say, not as I do type of thing. Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest part after 19 years, going on 20 years, how to effectively manage, how to effectively lead, things like that.
I was thinking about that earlier today, not in the context of your situation, but just kind of a little bit frustrated with a situation that I'm in outside of this, and realizing that you can't really convince people of things. You kind of have to lead them to their own conclusions about why something is right, or you need to show them why what you're doing is the right way. And I think it can be more intuitive for if you've spent your entire life outside the military, but while you're in, you have the option to flex this muscle that just says, hey, you are going to do this because I say, and like it can be unquestioning. It's like they don't have an option, and that can almost like teach you the wrong thing about like what leadership really is. It's like kind of almost ruling by fear rather than
absolutely,
in showing the right incentives and, like you said, kind of coming alongside them.
Yeah. Because at that point, once you get to that point, and you're kind of you become a dictator almost, right? You start leading, and then you almost out of fear, you're trying to instill fear in these junior Marines, sailors, soldiers, whatever. That's not going to be effective, because they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth. That's why I think that a lot of folks get out after their first enlistment, because they feel like they don't have a say. They don't get a chance to lead effectively. They get micromanaged and things like that. There's a lot of things that go into it. And I saw a video from the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and he was asked by a reporter, like, hey, why do you think a lot of Marines are getting out these days? And he answered the question. It has a lot to do with leadership. It has a lot to do with what's the word he used? Oh God, it's escaping my head. Work-life balance. So a lot of Marines that I encounter, they don't like their personal business being sifted through, right? So when we have to do barracks inspections and things like that, not me so much anymore, but the higher up enlisted, they don't like that because it feels like, their privacy is being violated. And I get that to an extent too, because I was a young Marine at one point, and I hated when people came through and just started like, white gloving my entire room. It sucked. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the game, right? Without discipline, you got nothing.
Mhm.
That's the name of the game.
Maybe compare and contrast, if you wouldn't mind, pointing out that maybe younger Marines today have like a higher care for that. What do you think that you did care about that, but to a lesser extent? Or maybe what was going through your head as a younger Marine coming up on the end of your first enlistment and
Mhm.
considering whether you ought to stay in or not?
So to answer your first question, did I care about the whole privacy invasion type thing, the whole mentality? I did to an extent, but I knew that that was just part of life, right? Because at some point when you start gaining rank and you become an E4, E5, then you are the person who's doing the inspecting, right? You're the person who's expecting these things out of your junior guys. So though I did hate it, when I was younger, I always had it in my head like, you know what, it's just part of the military, and being in the Marines, being in, one of the toughest branches, I'm like, okay, well, this is what I have to do, I suppose. And I didn't really push back on it too much. It's just part of my routine, part of the battle rhythm. As far as what kept me around after 4 years, that was a number of things, man. It was a lot of honestly the leadership I had. So my first enlistment, I was in Camp Pendleton, California. Didn't know anybody, didn't know anything. I've lived on the East Coast my entire life, and I had some leaders, some corporals, sergeants who really took me under their wing. Kind of showed me around, took care of me. I've had some staff sergeants who actually took care of me. Right, they took the time out of their day to sit down with me to show me how to progress, to show me what kind of courses I need to take to progress. So what became when I first joined, before I even got to Camp Pendleton, I thought, I'll do this whole 4 years thing, this 4 year enlistment, and then get out. That was the whole idea of it, but it was the leadership that kept me around. I think it was the fact that people actually gave a crap, because I felt lost a lot of the time, and I had somebody to turn to, and they were there. I fear that a lot of folks don't feel like that. They don't have that same experience that I did. That's maybe why they get out and they feel like folks are retaliating against them. Whatever the deal might be. I never felt like that. I always felt like I was taken care of.
Were you always in legal, and like were you kind of getting the satisfaction you wanted from a job pursuing that field?
Yeah, so I always worked in legal since day one. A funny backstory to that is when I was actually joining and talking to the recruiter, I wanted to do counter intel, and then he's like, yeah, that's not available right now. I'm like, okay, well, what's the next best thing for me? It was combat camera. It was like part of the public affairs. It was combat camera because I liked doing graphic design. I did that in college when I went there for a year, right? And he's like, yeah, that's not open for another 6 months. And I thought, man, I want to get out of here. What else is available? So he said legal, legal admin. All right, so let's try it out. Military justice. Let's go for it. So yeah, I've been doing legal since day one. The idea behind that was, do 2 years, as the recruiter told me. He's like, hey, if you want to really switch jobs, do 2 years in this MOS field, and then you can do a lateral move. What's called a lateral move to another MOS. I thought I would do that, but honestly, once I got into it, I didn't even think about it. And my entire time through, I'd never thought about lateral moving, just because of the folks you encounter, the type of work that you do. It really is about the people around you that make it enjoyable, I think. And I've had nothing but great experiences, to be honest. I mean, I'm not trying to blow smoke or anything like that, and just because it's the podcast, right? I'm being honest. I mean, I've had nothing but great experiences, man. It's a lot of folks go into it, they go into work pissed off, and that's not me, man. I'm thankful that I have New Day. I'm thankful that I have a job. I'm thankful that I'm employed, that I get to work around folks, that have the same mindset and the same, motivation that I do. I'm thankful for all that stuff. So it's, yeah, I've been happy in my MOS. I mean, the job is tough. There's a lot of crazy things that go on, and you're exposed to a lot of investigations, things like that. You see a lot more than other people see, but at the end of the day, it's a job, and it's a good one. I think it's one of the best in the Marine Corps, I think.
So you kind of teed that up really nicely. That was exactly where I was going to go with that. Is
Yep.
like I have to imagine that you're dealing with like NJPs and people who are more or less in trouble for something.
Yep.
And it's like within the service, but then also out in town too. What kind of environment does that? I imagine that that's probably extremely negative, dealing with people who are probably pissed off and kind of
Yeah,
angry maybe all the time.
it
Is
can
that the case?
it can be. I mean, it depends on the capacity of the work, right? So there's different facets of military justice, of legal, right? So you have like military justice itself, where you go actual court martial routes, and you prosecute, and then there's defense. There's legal assistance, which is great because you're actually helping dependents, civilians, retirees, in doing their wills, and actually helping them solve problems, right? Like immigration, things like that. So it's a real feel good type of job. There's jobs like I was doing, admin law, which, I mean, you're familiar, you were in the service, there's rules and regulations for everything you do, and you break one of those rules and regulations. And it's not to the level of a court martial, but it's a little bit above a NJP or page 11. So they take you to an admin board. So I was actually the one walking into an admin board, representing the government on probably almost 300 admin boards over the course of my career. That is a little tough because you're basically in a courtroom. It's me, and it's a defense counsel, and it's a panel of three members, which are act as a jury, and you present this case, and you present all witnesses, the evidence, and you allow them enough, you give them enough information for them to make an educated decision on whether they should recommend to the commanding general whether or not this Marine should be, or even sailor, should continue to be employed by the government, by the Department of Defense, by the Marine Corps, or the Navy. Yeah, it has its downsides. There's a lot of negatives that come. You see a lot of the negatives, especially investigations. There's death investigations, things like that. You're exposed to like photos and things, but I mean, at the end of the day, I see it as an avenue to learn something that I didn't know before. I even though it's negative, I actually enjoy doing these things. It's a little strange to say, but I actually enjoyed, going through and doing these investigations, going through and sifting through evidence and presenting things and talking to witnesses. Not that I want to be an attorney at all. I've thought about that before, and I'm like, nah, that's not the route I want to go in. I'm good at where I am right here. But yeah, there's a lot of negatives they have to deal with, and sometimes you encounter some folks, and outside of the Marine Corps, that's happened to me before, where you encounter somebody who I've processed out, and they're like, "Hey, sir, remember me?" Yeah, I'm like, "Oh man, this is not good. Let's get out of here."
Yeah, not what you
So
want to be remembered for.
no, not But at the end of the day, I usually go and shake these people's hands. I'm like, "Hey, look, man, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
You have a mission. I got a mission. Not that I don't care about you or the Marines or anything like that. I just have a job to do. And you might have done cocaine in the Marine Corps or in the Navy, and there's rules and regulations. Hey, we got to process this, man. And it's not my call. It's really the commander's call. The CEO. So, I mean, once they get it in their head and once they start the processing, it lands on my desk, and that's my mission. That's what I have to do.
What do you think is the most interesting thing that you learned about the rules and regulations of the military that maybe really makes sense or really doesn't make sense?
Yeah. So when so there was once I started doing some digging into it when I first started, right? It was an older guy, one of the gunnies that I was working with. He's like, "Hey, take a look at this. You'll come to find out there's a rule for everything you do in the military." And I got to thinking about it. I was like, "Holy crap, man! There really is. There's a drill manual. There's a way, how to walk, how to talk with tact, how to cut your hair. You know, there's a rule for everything, right?" And then digging deeper, I'm like, some of these articles are kind of out there. Like there's an article, what is it? I don't know if it's still in place. It was abuse to public animals. I'm like, what? Yeah. Yeah, it's prohibited to abuse a public animal, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going around to the park and kicking geese or anything, but you know,
Right. There has
yeah,
been one Marine who did, and we
yeah, and
ruined it for everybody.
that's why they put it in there, right? Somebody punted a gopher, and that's what happened. That because of him. But yeah, I mean, there's rules for everything, man. Really, and I mean, I don't know how folks are privy to these rules, man. They know their left and right lateral limits. They just have to fall within those bounds and keep their nose clean, per se. But that's really it, man. It's just there's right and wrong. I mean, there's a gray area sometimes, but you don't want to find the loophole to everything. You want to just complete the mission. I mean, just do what you got to do. That's it. That is the recipe for getting to 20 years. Just do what you got to do. That's it. To the audience.
You make it sound so simple.
And it can be. It can be.
Yeah, well, you make it look easy, and it's going to be an interesting segue there. We're going to have to. I want to come back and revisit that statement, because while you have done like a 20-year stint, you are doing things that are very not by the rules. And like, I'm going to just kind of tee that up. We're going to come back to that. I do have kind of like one more question about like your legal career. What influence has working around rules and the law, how has that formed you as like a person? Do you think that that's changed your outlook on things?
I'd say I could agree with that. I'd say yes, a little bit. I'm definitely more detail oriented than I used to be.
I've seen some of those attorney statements, man. They are like, they're writing it all out.
Like, yeah. And, I used to help writing those things. I've helped in writing manuals, and, you're definitely more detail oriented. You have to get in the weeds on a few things, right? Just to make it clear. But I mean, as far as what was your question again? I'm sorry, it escaped me.
I was just asking how your time spent around rules and regulations and upholding those has maybe influenced or changed how you look at the world.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I'm definitely, so I don't have, I'm proud to say I don't have bad paperwork, because I know what's right and what's wrong. Right. So that has definitely influenced it. Right. So as a young Marine, I knew when to remove myself from certain situations. I knew, because I was exposed to so many knuckleheads and so many investigations on things people would do, right? And I'm like, can't do that, shouldn't do that. Not that I don't like to have fun, but I just knew my left and right lateral limits, right?
Well, and you're like so much closer to the negative outcomes. It's not like this distant thing that you like, I don't know if they have something similar in the Marines, but like in the Navy, they'll have like a public mast. And like people, like younger sailors, like everybody gets to watch this person just get annihilated by the captain or whatever. And like it kind of is meant to send a message. But yeah, like you're hands-on dealing with, hey, this is the punishment that this person's going to receive because of this.
That's right. So I don't, my office does not actually initiate the NJPs, but we do like the after effects of that, right? You get so many NJPs, we're going to process you administratively or punitively, through a court martial. So it has definitely switched or at least altered my outlook on what to do, what not to do. And even teaching my kids and young Marines, I'm like, hey, probably shouldn't do that. Probably shouldn't do that, right? I mean, my rule is, if you got to think about it and you got to think twice about doing something and it doesn't feel good in your gut, hey, it's time to walk away, because nothing good is going to come of that. Yeah. So it's definitely altered the way I look at the world. Not that I'm, 100% by the book or anything like that, but it's just, I just know right from wrong. And I like to live my life that way, because nothing good's going to come out of me stepping out of those bounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've mentioned this term a couple times, and I'd like if you could unpack that. You like knowing your left and right lateral limits. Can
Yeah.
you, where's
No.
that coming from? And maybe like I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the phrase and I get it, but I'm wondering like there's probably either a story or a reason why you refer to it that way.
No, no, it's no story. It's just it became normal vocabulary as I was going through like training. As you have your machine gun fire, you have your lateral limits. Kind of like overlapping fire, right? So you shoot here, you shoot here. The other guy overlaps yours, so you know where to start and where to stop, right?
Hmm.
Almost like I guess like a basketball court. You have your left and right lateral limits. Your one side of the court to the other. Anything else is out of bounds, right? So you want to just fall within those limits.
Hmm.
That's simply it. I mean, I went through it, in the staff academy when I was younger, TBS, the basic school when I was doing officer training. So that's kind of been pounded in my head a lot, and it's just become part of my vocabulary. It's
Hmm.
probably something I need to lose if I'm talking to civilians and stuff as my transition progresses.
Now that'll it'll just make you sound a lot more tactical and it'll be good. It's all about the positioning here.
Yeah.
How do you think about defining those left and right lateral limits when you're in a situation where there's not, when those don't exist? You've spent the last 20 years working in a career, as you've described, that has those very well defined. And
Mm-hmm.
you're now like stepping into this like transition mindset of like getting out and
Yeah.
thinking about your next steps. And those limits don't exist anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's all bets are off on the sides and you can go any direction that you want. So I'd love to hear how you're thinking about defining what those edges are.
Okay. Well, I would say I need to know my capabilities and I need to know what I'm getting into. Because if I don't know a situation, if I don't know something, I'm going to do my best to either recon or to research. Here we go with the terminology. Terminology.
It's
I'm going to
okay.
do my best to research the situation, and I'm going to make sure that I'm as well educated as I can be on what I'm getting into. Point. I guess an example would be when I was looking at a skill bridge recently. I found the skill bridge on the skill bridge website. I emailed the folks and I asked them if I can go over there and see their operations, see how they run things, right? And it wasn't what I thought it would be, right? I'm glad I did it. I kind of educated myself before I went into it. Like I made sure that I read as much as I could about the company. And actually, the VP was actually walking me around and showing me all these different areas of his company. I equipped myself with as much information as I could. I made sure that I toned it down in the military terminology, but really that was it. I mean, it was just knowing, at least having the 80% solution, the 80% knowledge of what I'm going to get into. I understand that I'm not going to have a solution for every scenario. That's just a given. Nobody has every solution to every scenario. It's just a matter of going into it knowing that you are somewhat educated on the situation, and that's what I try to do myself. I know, I understand that there's not. I'm stepping outside of this bubble, this nice cushy bubble that is the military, right? Everything is done for me. There's rules and regulations. I know how to work all this stuff, and I'm walking into a civilian world where I don't really know, the lateral limits. But all I can do is talk to folks who have been there, who are currently doing it, and educate myself on those, the world outside of this. Yeah, no, nobody's got all the answers. I just got to go into it with confidence. That's it.
Right.
I got to
Act,
act like I know what I'm doing.
yep. Act like you know what you're doing, act like you belong there and just kind
That's
of
it.
roll with
That's it.
it.
That's it.
Well, and that's so difficult too in transition, like getting out, because there's one of the things that I really struggled with is you kind of like you think that you are aware of everything, like or
Mhm.
like what information you've been provided about, hey,
Yeah.
there's this resource, whatever, and then you go and kind of track those down,
Yep.
and you're like, okay, I know, I know it, like I'm good. And then all of a sudden you're kind of just like stumbling along and you talk to somebody and they're like, oh, have you thought about this? And you're like, what? Like, and
Yeah.
it kind of like forces you to reevaluate everything because you
Mhm.
have to kind of like, there's a new thing that you have to go figure out and see like, oh, is that right for me? And that just like, that doesn't stop. Like
Yeah.
every episode of this podcast has been like, oh, I learned something new and you kind of
Yeah.
have to like go figure out whether it's right.
And that is excellent. That is an excellent answer to that, because nobody knows everything, right? And
Mhm.
you can only add on to your knowledge,
Mhm.
right? That's something that I keep very close, is constant education. It doesn't have to be college or anything like that. Just knowing something. You could be walking somewhere and be like, man, how that guy get in that situation? You know, how do I not be in that situation? You know, and that causes me to research things. Man, I'll tell you, I'm constantly, while I'm on my computer, I have three screens, right? And I have one open with my work stuff. I have another one open with just things that I'm researching, like how do I do this? How do I do that? You know, and anything, you know, and it's an everyday thing. You know, you always want to add on to your knowledge base. That's why I have my green logbook. You know, that's why I got that, because I write everything in that thing. You know, from thoughts, ideas, tasks, and you know, education is nonstop. So
Mhm.
I no, that's awesome that you said that.
One of the things that I'm interested to ask you, this is like a kind of a big question here, but
Yeah.
what do you think scares you the most about getting out? Like it's a big jump. Like, and I gotta ask, like, what's the thing that's staring you right in the eyes and you're just like kind of afraid to look at?
Yeah, so it's similar to like when I was in Hawaii and I jumped in the middle of the ocean and I could not see anything beyond the deep blue ocean. It's the unknown. It's that's what scares me. Not knowing right now, really not knowing where I'm going to live, not knowing, because we have not established a state yet or a city. So, and I'm
Do
looking
you
at
at
my,
least have a country nailed down?
not even. So, no, yeah, we're
I
gonna be
might have
good.
just opened up the lateral limits for you there on that one. Like you've like, oh well,
Now
crap, we
it's a
haven't
full
even gotten that
360 now.
far.
There's no limit.
Right. We're just all directions.
Yeah. No. I think, I mean, to play it safe, I mean, we were thinking about some things, right? Because my wife is a GS. She's got a GS position, so she could probably get a job somewhere like in Japan, you know, or in
Hmm.
Germany. So that's why I laugh at it. I'm like, we haven't even established that yet. But I think, you know, the U.S. would be a safe bet, because I know it, right? We haven't established a state, so that scares the crap out of me, because I'm less than a year out now, and then given the skill bridge, I'll probably be out in a few months. So that's kind of scary. And really, I think the only other thing is, I don't know what I'm going to get into. Like, I've joked about it, like on Facebook and you know, to friends. I'm like, I don't even know what I want to be when I grow up yet. You know,
Hmm.
because I've been having so much fun in the military. You know, now it's time to, you know, put on my big boy pants and try to figure things out, you know, it's in the civilian world. But yeah, that's a little scary, is there's so many options and so many things that I want to do. It's hard to narrow that down. And I was even talking to some guy on LinkedIn. I was like, just looking for, you know, some kind of guidance. And he straight up told me, he's like, you don't even know what you want to do yet. I'm like, well, you're right. And that's why I'm reaching out to you. Like, what, you know, that's, you know, that's the whole premise of me, you know, reaching out. I understand that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know yet. You know, I'm getting my master's in project management. Is that something I really want to do? I don't know. I'll tell you when I get there. You know, but you know, right now I would like to get into a veterans organization like Wounded Warrior Project or something like that. I really hold that kind of stuff to heart. There are not a lot of positions where I want to be. A lot of them are like in the middle of the country, and I'm like, I'd like to be by the coast somewhere, because that's what I'm used to. But I think that's a scary thing too, is trying to find a place to set my family down, trying to find a place where that has good schools, you know, for my kids, somewhere where it's close to family, but not too close, you know, close enough.
Not next door neighbors or even
Oh
down the
no,
street. We need
heck
at
no,
least
man.
like a,
Heck
we
no.
need an hour drive notice at least.
Yes. Yes. I know. My brother lives within 10 minutes from my parents, and yeah, that's a rough life. Um,
Oh, I just came by for some eggs, like whatever.
why didn't you come visit me? You're only 10 minutes away. Uh,
Right.
no, but yeah, I guess there's a multitude of kind of scary things, right? But I don't show it on the exterior, but it's something that keeps me up at night sometimes. Something that I think about all the time. Right now, I mean, if I could stay here where I am right now, the schools are great. I love it here, but it's California, and it's not it's not the most cost effective place to live, right? But if we end up here, we end up here. But
Mhm.
really, that's what I think about a lot: is where the heck am I going to end up? Where am I going to put my family down? What kind of job am I going to get into? I'm confident that I'm going to find something. It's just I don't know what.
One of the framings that I really like to use, not that
Mhm.
I am some transition expert by any means, but I talk to a lot of people about it. And
Yep.
a framing that I found extremely helpful, not only with this, but in other situations, is when you don't know what to do, thinking about what you don't want to do. And so maybe if you're down, maybe we should talk about like what are the things that you do for sure don't want to do, and then starting from a position of like, hey, I have all these options, eliminating some down actually helps you see clearer on like what
Mhm.
it is that there might actually be there, rather than just, oh, I can do anything. Like you can, but
Yeah.
you'll be stymied by the analysis paralysis. So
Right.
what do you not want to do?
Well, how much time you got? Because I got a whole lot of stuff I don't like to do.
I got all night, man. I took a nap today just for this. Like we could go all
Let me
night.
see. What don't I like to do? We just going off the top of my head. I would rather not. Not that I don't like to do this, but I would rather not sit at a desk all day. That is, I've been doing that for a long time. Not sitting at a desk all day, but actually being in the office environment. I'd like to have a change from that, right? I joked around with some friends the other day. I was like, my ideal job would be like a forest ranger or something like that, riding around the forest in ATV. Hey, let me see your fishing permit or something like that.
Hmm.
Because you're outside, you're outdoors. I want to be in the outdoors. I want to be outside. I don't want to be like doing construction or something. I'd like to do something with my hands, but not specifically that. But being outside, I think, would be beneficial. I guess the office environment. Let me see. I'm though I do like Hawaii. I don't want to be in the ocean. So I mean, I like the water. I like the beach, but I'm not trying to swim with sharks and stuff. So yeah, that's out of the question. Got a friend of mine who was. We went on to a tour of the science center out by Kaneohe Bay, and they had some openings at some point about with testing the waters for hammerhead sharks. I'm like, that's not for me. I'll pass on that. But I think that might be still an opening with the University of Hawaii. What else don't I mean, I don't like to sit down all day. I mean, there's not a lot that I really don't like doing, right? I'll try
Hmm.
everything. That's a tough question because I just really that the only thing that's crossed my mind is get out of the office a little bit. I know what
Yeah.
I do want to do is be around people that I like to be around, right? Be around a mission oriented team, a forward thinking team, innovative team, playing with ideas, playing with projects, things like that, coming up with solutions. I do want to do those things. Um,
Hmm.
I don't want to be around folks who don't want to do something like that because then
Yeah.
everybody's stagnant, right?
Well, I mean, look at what we just did here. Like I could, just based off the things that you just said,
Yeah,
think about the profile of a job that you just created for yourself
yeah,
in this. Like we know, hey, like let's just assume that you're going to live in the US at this point.
mm-hmm.
You have said that you like the coast, and
Yeah,
so that's, I don't know how many coastal states there is, maybe 20 total. So we've got it narrowed down to half.
yeah,
We also know that a remote job is like not going to be your thing, so that eliminates a huge portion. You know that you need a mission driven, like tight knit team, so you're probably looking for an employer that it's probably smaller, smaller, or it's like a cause that you really care about, wounded
Right.
warrior, maybe something like that. But
Yeah.
you see, like, those are the types of things that you can be
Yeah.
like, we're creating a profile of, and that still is a wide aperture, don't get
It
me
is.
wrong, but it's better than 360.
No,
Like,
it is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
and then as you kind of like continue to think about the things that you don't want, you get to slowly be like, no, not that.
Yeah.
No, not that. Like, and taking that industry approach would probably be the next thing that I would think about. Like, I'm
Right.
not really into, I mean, we already eliminated construction, but what are the other industries and stuff that you could kind of mark off the thing, and then
Mhm.
expected pay, like pretty soon you kind of keep like getting more and more rich on the detail, and soon you've got a pretty good like kind of
Yeah.
profile of what you're looking for.
Yeah. So for a while, I mean, I like the exercise though. By the way, it's
Hmm.
kind of brainstorming, trying to establish your likes, dislikes, and where you want to position your path. I like that. For a while there, a few months back, I was like, man, I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I'm like getting certificates in anything that I could find, get my hands on, right? And I even went out and started doing like forklift classes. And I'm
Yep.
like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, hey man, if things fall through, I can be a forklift driver for Walmart or something like that. Not that they don't pay too well, but I could do that, whatever. And I had to get my OIC to sign off on that. It was for because it was on base, right? It was like a safety thing. He's like, yeah, just I approve of this, and he's like, Vic, really? I mean, you're building systems for the Marine Corps over here, and you want to be a forklift driver? I was like, I'm expecting more out of you. I'm like, well, damn, sir, I'm just trying to get all the certs I can. Uh,
Right.
but no, it's yeah, I think that kind of was my scramble, right? It was like trying to do too many things at one time and not having a focused direction on where I want to go. Now I'm starting to get a more focused direction. Like, hey, I want to do something with like veterans, right? I like to do art. I do a lot of art, and I find that helps me out with my, stress levels. It's my way to decompress after, a day or a week. So I do a lot of that stuff, and it's been, my stuff is in museums and stuff here in Southern California. I'd like to do something with art if possible, help, veterans who are affected by PTSD, get them outside of that and then help them find a way to cope with that. That's big with me too, so I mean, there's different avenues I can take with this. It's just I'm starting to narrow it down little by little as I go along to what I really want to do, what really kind of gives me that passion, right? Because now as I'm retiring, I have the option to do something that I'm passionate about, that I really want to do, and not just what I'm told to do, right?
Hmm. No, that's I 20 years is a long time.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like I complain about, I'm like, man, 4 years felt like a lifetime of like not being in charge of my own
yeah.
decisions. And I sympathize with that, and I'm excited for you to kind of like go through that. And
I,
I know it's obviously scary, but like it's a good thing too.
yeah, yeah. It is. It is.
One of the things that I have been talking to a lot of people in transition about is like, what are you missing from either the Marine Corps, or finding and talking to people on LinkedIn, or like other resources that you're using to help you? What is missing from that like list of resources that you're not getting from somewhere?
Mm. So I'll tell you, right now I don't know what I don't know, right?
Mhm.
I'll put it like that, because I have yet to do the transition readiness seminar. I start that in 2 weeks. So I hear that there's a lot of good information that goes into that. I've taken the initial one before, which was like a introductory, like hour-long class, and they kind of went through everything at rapid speed. So I know that there's more good stuff to come. So I don't have that information yet, but I think probably I figured this out myself, but like the medical records management stuff, how to request all that. Probably, I don't know if they touched on this at the transition readiness seminar, but I think a lot of Marines could benefit from like financial management classes going out, like leaving the service, or any service members. Because I mean there is a big homeless problem, especially here, like in Southern California. And I feel like crap when I drive by and I see these homeless folks, and some of them happen to be veterans, and I'm like, man, not that I look at them and say, I wonder if he has a financial management class, but I really do wonder that, like, what are these folks being taught on the way out? Did they just make bad decisions? Like, what kind of decisions were they taught, shown, or what kind of issues were brought up? What kind of transition did they receive? And now they're homeless. Now they're living out of a tent. And there's a ton of those here in Southern California. But, I'm kind of bouncing around here, but things that I would want to see: financial management, probably expand a little bit more on the benefits from each state. Again, I don't know if they touch on that at the TRS seminar, but I've done all that research myself. I've gone to each state's website, at least the ones who are military tax friendly, to see what they all offer. Some offer free college, some like CalVet. California has CalVet. If you have any kind of disability, your dependents go to school for free at any state university. I didn't know that until I actually, typed it in and Googled it. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. This is good information. I didn't know that. Then I got to searching some more and then asking questions. I'm like, oh yeah, that's been around for a while. Well, crap, nobody's told me that. So I think more information on, state benefits. I'm sure I'll get some of that information, as I go through the whole transition process. But if they don't already give that, I think that'd be beneficial, because that is a big deciding factor for a lot of folks, I think, as they make the transition. I know it is for me, because I'm looking for military tax friendly states, and I'd like to know what their benefits are, school wise and medical wise, things for dependents, things like that.
I had never thought about that before. That you're the first person that's ever mentioned that to me, and I think that the retirement transition class is different than the non-retirement one, so they may have a different conversation with folks who did 20 or getting out after an extended period. May go over different things. What do you think that you should have started earlier in the process? And maybe what are you right on time for? You've got a year-ish left and you're kind of attacking it, you're getting out, talking to people, taking these meetings, and it sounds like you've been very proactive about preparing for that. There are people who maybe started earlier than 1 year. There are probably some people who don't, maybe they wait till the last month, whatever it is. I'd be curious to hear and maybe this will be more of something you'll be able to answer in hindsight, but I'm curious if there's anything that is sticking out to you as, oh, I'm doing this right at the right time.
Yeah. So I'll start it with this. I did, I was always good about doing my 10-year plan, 5-year plan, especially being in the military, right? I did my 5-year plan, and that included a possibility of retiring at 20 years, and then a possibility of going beyond that. So I actually was not fixed on retiring from the Marine Corps until about, I want to say 3 weeks ago, about probably 3 weeks to a month ago. That something happened that it was my defining moment. I was like, you know what, it's my time to go then. What I could have done earlier is probably anticipated a little sooner, like actually. There was no way for me to tell, right? Because I'll get into this real quick. I applied for a position as a combat artist in the Marine Corps. I didn't make that position. And if I would have, that would have taken me to 21, 22 years. But since I didn't get selected for that position, I decided, you know what, that is it. I'm not going to move to another duty station 20 years here. So it was hard for me to anticipate that early on. But what I wish I would have done sooner is actually done the TRS class about at my 18-year mark, because you're allowed to do it twice within 2 years. I wish I would have done it the first time at my 2-year mark, and again now my second time, just to get more information. I wish I would have established my resume a little earlier. I understand that they have resume writing courses now. I have somebody from Hiring Our Heroes doing my course or my resume, and I'm grateful for that. But I wish, as I'm looking for jobs and I'm like, damn, I'm qualified for that. I wish I would have had my resume ready in order to start applying for these things, which I don't. I'm still working on my resume, so I wish I would have done that a little bit earlier. I don't know. I mean, that's probably the top two things aside from establishing a place where I want to live. But yeah, that the transition readiness, because I would have liked to have that information last year so I can start making educated decisions now as I go along. I think I started LinkedIn at the right time within my 1 year premium time frame. So I think that was good. I'm starting to build the network up. So I think that's good. I probably could have started that a little bit earlier, but I wasn't really, again, I was on the fence on whether or not I was going to stick around or not until last month. Yeah, I think that's really the only thing I'm thinking about it right now, because I probably could tell you more as I finish the transition process. But right now, yeah, it's just those handful of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe now would be the right time to talk about your debut into YouTube. So you're going to like
Yeah, yeah,
take this transition process to
right.
the web with like the Green Book official. So
Mhm.
do you want to talk about that, like kind of what your plan is for that,
Sure.
and we can go
Yeah,
from there?
I just started it maybe probably last week, 2 weeks ago, maybe. It's called the Green Logbook, right? So the idea behind that is throughout my entire military career, I've had a green notebook, a green little logbook, right? The little 5x8 little notebooks that you get from the supply store. And that has carried me through my entire military career. I mean, I have them. I don't know what it is. Maybe I like to keep these things around, but I have every one of them dated and itemized on my bookshelf from the time I was in to now, right? So I have
How many is there?
there's probably close to 20, because I go through one every, probably more than that. I'm missing a couple over the moves, but probably close to 18 to 20. I got to count them. But I mean, those hold my thoughts, those hold my tasks, quotes I hear, leadership traits, every little thing. Margins are filled in. It's got my doodles on there, So I hold on to them because I look back on them to see what I've learned over the years. It's just cool to see what I was thinking about back when I was in E4 or E6, right? Just looking back. So, and they hold so much good information. That's why I call it the Green Logbook, because these things just hold so much good information. I felt like I needed to pass that information on to somebody else, right? Leadership traits, things, best practices. So yeah, that's the name of the YouTube video, or the YouTube channel, the Green Logbook.
Mhm.
Um, Basically, it is just a ton of videos. Well, not yet, but it soon will be a ton of videos just explaining right now my entire military to civilian transition process. I'm doing all this research that I wish I had handed to me, right? And I really wanted to get it out to the world. Like, hey, look, let me show you what I'm having trouble with. Let me show you what you may have trouble with. Let me show you the best practices. Let me show you what I've learned. So that way it'll probably make your transition a little bit easier. I guess the future plans would be, hey, bring on folks that have made the transition, who have had success or failures, and let them explain, their best practices. But for right now, I'm just kind of documenting week by week what I'm doing. Hey, look, I'm researching these states that I want to live in. I'm doing my Coursera work, for certificates. I'm going to TRS classes now. Here's what I'm learning. Things like that. It's going to be something different every week, but it's something that I wish was out there as I'm starting the transition process. But I'm having to go to the VA website and go into LinkedIn, Facebook pages, and I'm having to get all this information from all over the place. I wish it was in one central place. Yeah, that's really what it is. It's just educating folks. It's almost like not teaching, but just passing on the knowledge.
Well, and I think you get so much value too from actually teaching a subject. Like
Yeah,
you really got to know something,
yeah,
and it shows too when you one thing that's, I don't know if it's like a human being fallacy or whatever, but we kind of have this belief that we know things better than we do,
Sure.
actually. And so the way to overcome that is to teach it or write it. And so what a great opportunity to kind of like really cement the things that you're learning by sharing it with people and doing some good while you're at it.
Yeah, and I always share it too. Like in my last video, I shared it at the end. Hey, look, if I missed anything or you have anything additional, please comment below, because I want to learn too. If I'm
Mhm.
wrong on something, let me know so I can change it up, switch it up. Of course, I don't want to be shelling out good or bad information, but it's a learning process. And it was always taught to me like, hey, look, the way somebody really knows a subject is if they can explain it at the lowest levels, right? So if they really can explain it and simplify it as much as possible, you'll see how much they know. You don't want to overcomplicate things. I don't like to overcomplicate things myself. I like what we call Barney style.
And this is also not your first foray into like media as
No,
well. You used to run a podcast, and I'm eager to kind of hear more about it. I've
yeah,
listened to a handful of it, and I'm also eager to hear if you're going to kind of like spin back up as time allows. Do you want to kind of like talk a little bit about that?
yeah. So back in, I want to say it was 2019, 2020, I started a podcast called Side Hustle Military. It's still up there on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that. I it started out with the idea of touching on my side hustles and showing people that multiple streams of income, even in the military, is a good thing. You're not doing anything wrong here. And it can benefit you, it can benefit your family if you have a second stream, third stream of income. Better yet, if it's passive income, right, where you're making money as you go to sleep and you wake up to sales and things like that. And then it kind of broke out into, not interviewing, but I would do the interviewing on the back end, and I would just kind of narrate what I talked to this person about, just so I can keep it concise to about 10 minutes or under. So it was a nice short podcast. Each episode was under 10 minutes. Not even. It was like, 5 to 7 minutes. But I interviewed folks who were like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And, this guy owned he was an army captain who owned like a sandal shop made in Afghanistan. It would benefit these Afghani women. Interviewed an author, and I shared my own stories on there about, starting up a what was it, a heat pressing business in Japan, which, looking back on it, I kind of feel bad because I put I put the guy off base out of business. I kind of feel bad about that. But, it's a reality, and, business is business. And it was more so like this green logbook where I'm just trying to spread knowledge on all this stuff. Like, hey, look, if this person could do it, if I could do it, there's no reason why you can't do it, right? And it got good reviews, and I was thinking about bringing it back, but I stopped it because we did the whole PCS move, and I just had a lot more time at my last duty station than I have now. So I'm like, I have too much stuff going on right now. I couldn't dedicate all my time to that. But it was fun while I was doing it. It definitely was. Just again, spreading the knowledge, letting folks know that they can do these things.
Now, as I feel like I've been waiting to like talk to you about this
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
time,
of course.
we have got to get into some of your like accolades in entrepreneurship, because you've got like some crazy funny stories, and like we're like can't wait to hear about some of this stuff. So
Yeah.
you like obviously had enough going on to
Mhm.
warrant like starting a podcast.
Yeah.
You have like been interested in like I'm gonna kind of like tie this back into what I was saying at the very beginning about how
Mhm.
you know the rules and whatever.
Sure.
You or entrepreneurship like doesn't really have rules, and so it's interesting to me that you like were so like rule focused and based, but you come at your life with this mentality of looking for things that can be improved
Yep.
and looking for opportunities to make a couple bucks or like just make people's lives better in other ways. Where did that come from? Where did that little like, oh, maybe I should start this up as a business, or what kind of inspired that?
So that started when I was a kid. Really, I was always the creative type. It was always I was always exposed to. I grew up in Jersey, and it wasn't a very good part. We'd always go to the market. My dad and I, and like a food market, right, like a farmer's market. And there would always be haggling going on, and I'm like, huh, he can get this at a better price. And then like my mother was very creative. She would make these figurines, and right now she still does that. She's got like a 50,000 subscriber channel on YouTube. I don't know how, but she's very creative, and I think that's where I got the creative side of me from. Just figuring things out. I was always curious, like, how does this work? How can I make this happen? If I saw something that didn't make sense to me or that I can do better, I would try it out. I would try to do it myself. I'll give you an example. When I was in Japan, stationed out there, I was the coach for my daughter's soccer team, Little League soccer team. They gave us a bag of jerseys, all the coaches, right? And they said, hey, look, some of the parents like the names on the back of the jerseys. If so, if you want a name on the back of the jersey, here's a guy's information. He's off base. He runs a little a shop that puts names on the back of jerseys. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go over there. I probably had maybe 10 jerseys in this bag. I walk up to this guy's shop and I open the door, and it's him, his wife. It's like a family operation, right? And he had a ton of bags behind the counter, even in the other room, like a ton of bags. Because not only did he do all the youth sports on base, he did it all for the prefecture, like the county out there, right? So he had all the schools. He was doing the jersey for all the schools. And I'm like, man, there's got to be like 50 bags in here. And all of a sudden, it's like things started winding up. It was like 50 bags. Okay, 10 jerseys in each bag. Okay, that's a lot of money. And then this guy's charging 13. It was 1,000 yen, which is equivalent to $13 at the time. And I'm like, this guy's making a ton of money doing this. And, wheels start spinning. And then I go home. I'm like, hey, start Googling heat presses. How much is a heat press to ship it out to Japan? Where do I get the vinyl lettering from? How, I need to get a silicone pad. I need how much time do I need to have thing downs for it to compress the vinyl onto onto the jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing all this research, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start my own little company. And it was called the Jersey Guy, and because I grew up in Jersey and I was doing jerseys, so the Jersey Guy, right?
Naturally.
Yeah, naturally, right? So then I asked the youth sports director, hey, look, can I present this order form and all this stuff to the coaches at the coaches meetings, because I am giving them a better price with a faster turnaround, and I'm even doing the coaches jersey for free if they go with me. So it was like too good of a thing not to go with me, right? So I did that for probably about 2 years, and I was doing it for the youth soccer, youth baseball, youth flag football, the cheerleading squad, even the security folks off base at the bars off base. And I walked away after 2 years with about 20 grand extra in my pocket, just by doing that. And at the end, I sold the entire business to a staff sergeant as I was PCSing out of there. So, and then, he came over, I taught him how to do everything. I gave him all the vinyl I had, how to order everything. So, you have to get creative with it. I always got creative with things. And I feel like every duty station I've been to, I've started something new. And, I started doing stickers when I first got here, and they were selling pretty well. And then I just kind of upped it to something else, and it just keeps going up and up. But I think the idea of it was, the way it started was, at least in the military, was to try to outdo my military pay, right? So whatever your base pay was, I'm like, I wonder if I can surpass this base pay just by doing side hustles. And after a few years, I did. And then all my military pay, I would just put into savings. And I wasn't too worried because my wife had a job too. I'm like, yeah, this is just kind of play money.
Mhm.
And, all the money would go into savings and I would just play around with whatever I made on the side, and now it's grown to like eBay. I'm like a top seller on eBay right now because, it's just people buy some weird stuff on eBay that you would never think of, and it's just, it's a very good business to be in, I think, if you can find the right niche on eBay. But yeah, I mean,
Well, let's give me the rundown on eBay. Like you
oh,
started it, so
you want to know what I'm selling?
I want to hear it. Like, what are you doing, and like
yeah,
how did you get into that, and like why,
yeah,
what, like the jersey thing, you saw the opportunity as like there's
I
kind
did.
of, hey, there's one person that does this and it's kind of
I did.
captive. You notice that it's kind of like a supply problem. eBay, a little
Yeah,
bit different maybe. How did you kind of stumble into that opportunity? And what
yeah,
I'm getting at here is like how how can we develop the mindset of like looking for those, like
yeah.
what should we be asking ourselves as we go and put ourselves in new situations?
Sure, sure. So the jersey thing, when I saw the guy doing all these jerseys, the first thing that came to mind was like, why is he having all the fun? I want in on this fun too, So you just have to have that spark, right? That creative spark. You have to. I'm always looking around. I'm always looking around at things. I don't know if it's my freaking, my situational awareness or what, from being in the military for so long, but I'm always looking around. I'm always pointing things out. And, I think that's a good part of being a Marine too, is like when somebody walks in the room, and this is kind of strange to say, but when somebody walks in the room, you're already judging them. Oh, this guy's uniform is messed up. His hair is all sideways, So you start to think like, hey, how can I help this guy out? What's missing from this, And I do that everywhere I go, right? Like I'll go to Walmart. Hey, that doesn't look right. How can I fix that? That doesn't look right. And you come up with ideas. You have to have that kind of spark, that want to make things good, to make things better. And I feel like a lot of folks have ideas, but they just never act on them.
Mhm.
So it just dies as an idea. But you just have to take that next step and take action and do something about it, right? As far as the what was the other thing you mentioned?
We were talking about eBay.
eBay. That's right. eBay. Sorry. I'm just
No, you're good. I'm all over the place here, so you're fine.
no. eBay was. I've had an eBay shop for a little while, right? And I got back into it. So we were in Hawaii before San Diego, and they didn't have a lot of thrift shops in Hawaii. They had some, but it's a small island. They didn't have too much stuff, and plus the shipping out of Hawaii to like the mainland was a little bit high, right? So it wasn't really working out too well. When I got here to San Diego, there's a ton of thrift shops here in San Diego. So I would go with my sons, and we'd go to these thrift shops, not just Goodwill, like the little mom and pop thrift shops too. And at one point, like my son came up to me, he's like, "Dad, is this a good shirt?" And it was a brand new with tags, Nike Tom Brady jersey, right? And I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. How much do they want? He's like $7. I was like, give it over, let's see it. And that one, since he found it, I gave him the findings. I gave him the money for that one. But that one, we flipped it. We sold it for about $120, right? So yeah, from 7 to 120. But I mean, there's things that I buy that like I would have never bought myself, right?
Mhm.
Um, Figurines, Actually, one of my best finds right now is a set, and it's like what is it, a tumbler set or a bunch of wine glasses. That's what it is, wine glasses, hand painted, signed by Norman Rockwell, right? So the artist, like Norman
Yeah.
Rockwell, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going. I have an appointment to go get it appraised here in a few weeks. But I'm like, no, if this thing is legit, I just hit the jackpot with this, and I didn't pay much for it. And I don't think these people knew what they had when I bought it. I just sold a soccer ball on eBay 2 days ago for $700, So yeah, it is a World Cup official match ball. I got it for $1.50.
Wow. How are you like what one of the things like I see tons of like YouTube videos and
Yeah,
TikToks and stuff of people like they're like in stores and kind of like scanning things. They're like,
yeah, yeah.
seeing like what they sell for,
Mhm.
and even maybe even less so about thrift stores, but more in like they're in, CVS and they're like, oh, this one particular
Yep.
brand of soap or whatever it was an exclusive run and it sells for 10x this or whatever. I don't know if something like that exists for like thrift stores, but like how are you developing the eye for things like how are you going to notice a soccer ball like that just really stands out?
So I know what you're talking about. It's called retail arbitrage, and the soccer thing. I've always been into soccer. I love soccer. Right. I watch it every day as the World Cup is going. I picked up the soccer ball. So it was at a garage sale. I picked up the soccer ball, and again, it was like an old lady. I I picked it up and I knew because it didn't have the seams like the soccer ball does. Normal soccer balls do, like you buy at Walmart. It felt like it was just three pieces together and it was sticky, right? It was like I picked it up, it looked brand new. It was sticky. And I'm like, this doesn't feel, this feels different, right? And then I start moving it around. I see Adidas on there. I'm like, okay. And then I see World Cup, South Africa, official match ball. And I'm like, no freaking way. Hold on a second. So I pull out my phone and I pull up eBay and there's like these exact same balls in the box are selling for $1,000, $900. And I'm like, what? No way. And I'm like, ma'am, how much do you want for this? She's like, oh, $1.50. I'm like, okay. I mean, I bought more stuff from her, right? She had like Transformers and GI Joes and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I bought that thing and I immediately went home. I was like, oh, I got to put this on there. But as I put it on eBay, I probably got, it's only been on there for a month, and I probably got about 30 offers on it. And a lot of these folks have like zero feedback. Those are the ones you want to be wary of, right? The ones who have zero feedback, the ones who just created their account because they could be scams, right? The guy that bought it had a good amount of feedback. I made sure that I vetted him. I made sure that I looked at his stuff. If it was like a zero feedback thing, I would have just refunded it and said sorry. I'll move on to the next one. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I've sold Batman figurines. The latest one I sold was the Ben Affleck Batman figurine. I think it was like $30. It was like
Mhm.
in a pile of toys, right? But in order to develop the eye for that, you need to kind of be around it. You need to, for one, have the app on your phone, right? Amazon and eBay, and look at the quality of it. Know what you're looking for. If it's something limited edition, you kind of have to know what you're looking for in terms of that. Like my son was playing with. We went to a garage sale. He was playing with the original Ninja Turtle little figurines, and I'm like, oh crap, they got the whole collection here, and they were just thrown in a little box, and he's just playing with them. Dad, can I have this? I'm like, do you know what you're holding, man? Let me see that.
Yeah.
So you just gotta have you kind of have to be aware of what you have. I've been looking for so long, been thrifting for so long that I'm kind of aware of all those things. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, some things I don't know. A lot of the electronic things I don't know. I recently sold it was like an '80s Sony boombox, right? And it was like the silver ones. It wasn't that big one that you put on your shoulder, but it was a little bit smaller. And I'm like, man, I got it for super cheap, right? I thought it was going to work. It said not working, and it was just a wire on the inside that I just like touched together to started working. I'm like, oh, cool. Let me. I put some electrical tape on it, and sold it like that on eBay. You know,
How much time are you spending on stuff like that? Because I imagine that
yeah,
this is like taking, you mentioned it's taking some time to kind of like flex that muscle and get used
yeah.
to like things that you're looking for and whatever. Are you like out there pounding the pavement every weekend
No, 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 nothing like that. I mean, it's more like so I have so much inventory right now that I haven't been going out as much lately. Half of my garage is full of like motorcycle jackets and military memorabilia. things like that. I had figurines and things. Before probably the last 2 months, I was going out every weekend, early on in the morning, Saturday morning with my son. And because I figured, kind of get more people, more hands out there and just start grabbing things as I see them. Two is better than one. And he's kind of learning what to look for too, right? Yeah, Saturdays, some Sundays around San Diego, going around to the garage sales, thrift shops, whenever I get a chance, Fridays, Saturdays. And there's other people doing the same thing, right? I mean, I see folks all the time on their cell phones, looking up stuff, prices on eBay and stuff like that as they're rummaging through clothes. So they're all out there. But no, I don't dedicate that much time to looking for things. What takes a lot of time is taking photos and from different angles and then posting it up there. I think that takes a lot of time. I mean, I'll probably be on the computer for about 2 hours on a Sunday posting things up, and I'll get like 5 things posted up, 6 things posted up, but it's enough. I think the one of the other things that I've sold recently that was really good was I found an Audi vehicle. It was like I don't know how to explain it. It was a little figurine, a little Audi car inside of a plastic box. And the bottom is said dealers only. So I looked it up and it was something that was sent out as like a promotional item to dealerships, only Audi dealerships. So that one sold for a pretty good amount. It was like $200. And wow. I mean, it was like super cheap. It was like in a box of toys, and then I sold a 12 pack of pencils for about $150.
Wow.
So it was a pack of pencils that was a promotional item if you bought a Lucid electric vehicle. So Lucid is like almost like a Tesla, right?
Yeah.
So for some reason they had this promotion. If you buy a Lucid, then they give you a 12 pack of these limited edition pencils for free or something. I don't know what kind of promotion that is, but I found the pencils. It was like $2 for a box. And I'm like, hey, look, put it up on eBay, found some similar ones, sold for $150. So, and I'm making these sales, several sales a week. So it's kind of surpassed the military pay a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and you've kind of trying out all these different things, and like you said, you're creating something. You're creating multiple streams of income for yourself, and you're setting yourself up really well for getting out. And you've got all this. You could go full time on some of these side gigs, and you may not even need to work.
I agree. I thought of that. My wife brought it up to me, and she's like, "Hey, why don't you just stay home and do your eBay thing?" And I'm like, "Huh?" I didn't know if she was joking or what. I'm like, "Are you being serious?"
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "It's bringing in enough," but I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not a stable thing, right? Like I'm doing it now and it's fun now because I have a secure paycheck coming in every month, and if times are tough on eBay, then I can kind of fall back on that paycheck, right?" But I mean, I've considered it. I've considered it. Just doing that full time. It's it's hit or miss, and that's the only thing. Is some weeks are better than others, but I mean, it's really fun, man. It really is. I mean, I'd urge anybody who's on the fence about doing that stuff and wanting to try out eBay or something like that, go out and just try it out. I mean, that's how I get into things, right? I just try things out. If I like them, I like them. If I don't, hey, move on to the next thing. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to sit down with me and one of these days and give me the quick and dirty on, hey, here's what to look for at the garage sales. And that's kind of got me like, oh man, maybe I need to be doing that on the weekends or whatever, as if I need another hobby to take up a bunch of time.
I'm telling you,
at least
it's
that
addicting.
one would return some money though.
Yeah, it definitely is addicting. You're gonna once you see the money come in and you realize people pay for this stuff. You're gonna want to get out there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we got to talk about Undercover Clip.
Yeah.
Give us the rundown about the origination of Undercover Clip and how that came to be and where you're at today.
Sure. Yeah. So Undercover Clip, I'll I'll explain what it is. It is the most functional piece of gear for any Marine or sailor in the military service right now who wears an 8-point cover, right? So what it does is it's a little clip that, let me see if I have one here. I don't. It's all in my workshop. It's a small clip that goes, it's just a piece of plastic that goes inside the interior of the 8-point cover. It holds a pair of glasses, sunglasses or eyeglasses, safely inside the cover. It keeps the front of your cover looking straight. And I have two models, the tactical model, which is just those two things, and the motivator model, which actually holds an extra set of ranks. So it has like little holes in it in the shape of a cross, right? And it holds like an extra set of ranks in there. So that came about when I was in Hawaii. Funny story is I had just bought a new pair of Maui Jim sunglasses. And if you're familiar with Maui Jim, they're not cheap, right? So these things are like $200. And I was running late for formation. I went up to the formation. I took my sunglasses off. And I'm like, let me just stick them in my cargo pocket real quick. It was a promotion formation, right? So I wasn't aware at the time that I had like a screw inside my cargo pocket and some like spare change and stuff that I had just stuck in there.
All the
And
damaging items to
yeah,
sunglasses.
yeah. And we got out of the formation. The CO was like, hey, come around and congratulate all these, new promotees. And I didn't even think about it. I just went up there and I was like, some of these people were my Marines. So I'm like, hey, congratulations, Marine, congratulations. Taking pictures, just walking around. And then as I'm walking back to my car, I hear like the clank, clank, clank. And I'm like, oh, crap. I pull it out. The lenses are completely scratched. The frames are scratched. I'm like, crap, man, I just bought these this past weekend. So that was depressing. So what made me think next was, there's got to be a better way to carry my sunglasses. There's got to be a better way. And then I started looking around my uniform. I was like, where can I carry these things and still be in regulations? So I was playing around with like the inside of the cami blouse, maybe like on the inside of my pants, just everywhere, right? And then I took my cover off one time. I wish I had my cover here. I'd show you. I took it off, and I sat down just thinking, and I looked inside the cover, and I had a cut up credit card in there, an old credit card that had stuck in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that I could probably put something in there. And I took it out, took measurements and stuff, and I was like, So that weekend, I went to Hardware Hawaii, which is like an Ace Hardware store. And I got like clamps, I got little pieces of wood, glue, just different things. Like I got modeling clay, and I started making my own type of prototype from all these different things. And nothing really kind of fit, right? And I'm like, man, what can I do with this? Because I know it's a good idea. I know I'd use it. But when I started making the prototype for it, it wasn't to sell. It was like for my own use, right? I wasn't thinking about selling it at that point. So then I started drawing things up, started drawing it up. And then I downloaded, or not even downloaded, there's a website called, I think it's called Thingiverse, that I went on. And you could basically design things for free on there, right? 3D design. So I started like playing around with measurements and stuff like that. And my library on base at the time had a 3D printer where you can print a free 3D print item. You just have to send them a file, and you're limited to one print per week. So I'm like, all right, I sent them this print, and then I go pick it up, and then the thing would break. And I was like, shit, I got to wait another week. And then the thing would break. I'm like, oh man, this is taking too long, right? I was waiting like a week and a half sometimes because their printer would be down to get my prototype. So then I went online and found my own 3D printer, kept on going on with this, 3D design software, and started making different prototypes. And I think I've got like 7 prototypes that I made over the course of about 6 months to get to the final design. Yeah, it was just a bunch of learning how to 3D design myself, learning how to work a 3D printer. And after that, I showed it to some friends. They're like, holy crap, man, you got something here. And I'm like, hey, shut up. Don't say anything. Let me patent this thing first. So I started doing the whole patent thing first. Then I approached tactical shops and asked them, hey, look, here's how this works. And I had nice packaging for it, all this stuff. Here's how this stuff works. The guy tried it out. He's like, hey, I like it. We want to order 100. I'm like, all right, cool. And then I built a website. And then when I built that website and started doing this whole stuff on Facebook and advertising it on Facebook, I actually had to take leave for about a week because I could not keep up with the orders. It was just too many orders that I could not fulfill in time. So I was promising a 3-day turnaround. I was like, shit, I'm getting too many orders. So I took some leave. Then I presented it to the Marine shop in Quantico. So that's a big shop over there because that is normally where new officers go to get their dress blues tailored, right? So they put my stuff front and center up there on the counter. And I just got an order from them not too long ago, to replenish their stock. Then I presented it to the Marine Corps Exchange, and they wanted to buy some. I set up a kiosk in front of the Marine Corps Exchange in Hawaii and sold a ton there. So, just getting the word out and stuff like that. I was offered by a guy who owns another Marine Corps item, I guess the patent and the store for another Marine Corps item. He offered to buy my company, and I declined. I respectfully declined because I was like, you know what? I'm making daily sales with this thing. It's too good of a thing right now. I can't let it go. So it just started escalating from there, in a good way. Even today, I just sent out, a whole bunch of orders. So I dropped it off right before the podcast. But yeah, I mean, it was just, just getting creative. Just doodling, drawing, trying to figure out a way to fill in a gap that you identify. That's really all it is, And I've got a ton of ideas just like that. The thing is trying to find the time to execute the stuff. That's all it is. But yeah, I mean, once people started buying it, I was like, holy crap, people like this stuff. People want this. Holy crap, and it just started flying.
Yeah, I'm looking at your website right now. This thing is super slick. Like it's just clean, simple. It's like solves a massive problem. And it's just like, it's unbelievable. We've been wearing 8 points for, I don't know how long, and something like this hasn't existed yet.
Yeah. So there's another gentleman who makes a magnetic one. It doesn't hold sunglasses, but it's like a little magnet in there. I'm grateful that he reached out to me. He's like, hey, I want to make sure I'm not stepping on your toes with any patent stuff. I plan on making this, so I'm like, yeah, go ahead. It doesn't step on my toes, man. Do your thing. I'm happy to support any other folks who are trying to be creative and do something. Right. 100% support that stuff, man. Cause I think we need more of that stuff. And, just being innovative, coming up with solutions to problems, that's where it's at, man. I mean, that's like the future of the services, right? If we continue, not that this is the future of the services, right? Undercover Clip, but we need forward-thinking folks to continue to innovate, to continue to push the services forward. And I mean, I preach that stuff all the time with something so small, how it can make an impact.
Well, not only make an impact on the people you're making it for, but like a huge impact, obviously, on your life. Like financially and like creatively and all of these things. You sell these things for $9 or $10 per clip, and
That's
then
right.
you offer wholesaling.
I do.
How many, if you don't mind sharing, like how much have you done in sales since you started this?
I'm trying to think because there's a graph that I go by on the website. I probably sold about 10,000 of these things.
Wow.
Probably a little bit less, but I'll tell you what, my thing just runs. No, probably not 10,000, maybe a little bit less than that. But my 3D printers do not stop running. Really? I've had to buy more 3D printers. I have a whole wall in my garage of 3D printers, and that's really all it is, man. I mean, I make them in the garage. They're all made in the USA. And the quality assurance goes through me first. If there's anything messed up with it at all, I throw it in another bin and I sell it as a tester. right? Hey, look, this one's like half price. If you don't, I mean, it may have a little mark on it or something like that. It's not up to par with what I expect of my own quality. So if somebody wants a tester for half the price, it still works the same. Just may have a little mark on it. Have it for half price, right? That's how I get rid of those. But all the quality goes through me. I package all of them. Me and my son, we package all of them. But yeah, I mean, when it first started, it was late nights, and even now, it's like it kind of slowed down a little bit. But I'm doing it myself now. But because the orders are getting bigger now and like less individual orders, so I can package these up, and I have a ton already prepackaged anyway. So
Mhm.
I can do it all myself. But yeah, it definitely is a good thing. If you can be creative, it can definitely work out for you.
Well, and that whole idea of like kind of making money while you sleep, I have to imagine that after the first time that happens, it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I need more of that. Like I need to be, how do I
yeah,
get more of that going?
yeah. So there is a almost like an adrenaline rush, right? I don't know what they call it, but kind of like when you hear a little ding on your phone and you hear like, oh, somebody's text messaging me, right? For
Hmm.
me, it's a little ching thing, right? Ching, ching, right? And that kind of gets you going. It's like, oh, heck yeah, I do the same thing with Etsy. I have an Etsy store, and I sell things on Etsy. A lot of 3D printed items, right? Not specifically the Undercover clip, but I kind of branched out from there. Like, hey, look, I know how to use the 3D printer, so I'm going to make, battery holders for cameras. I'm going to make so this thing called diamond painting. My wife got into it a while back. So there's it holds these little. It's like mosaic tiles. They're tiny, right? They're like little beads, and they're called drill trays. It's a little tray that holds all these beads. I don't know why people go crazy over these things, but those things sell like crazy on Etsy. So I have a ton of those already made up, and I just get orders for those things and just package them up, put a little thank you note in there, and then send them on their way. So, I mean, I talked to a buddy of mine just not too long ago. So he drives a Porsche. There's a little item on the back of the Porsche that constantly breaks. He's like, dude, I just made 20 grand just selling these little pieces, like on Etsy and Amazon.
Hmm.
So he just manufactures these with his 3D printer. I don't know what part of the Porsche it is, but he's like, it's a little piece on the back, I guess, that constantly breaks. So I'm like, hey, more power to you, man. I'm glad you're doing that. So I mean, if you can find something that constantly breaks, or a clip or something like that on a backpack or something like that, or your issued gear, and you can manufacture something through a 3D print process, man, you can make some good money with that.
That was going to be kind of one of my closing statements
Yeah.
or closing questions for you would be, what would your advice be for somebody that kind of maybe has that spirit and is looking to kind of get their first thing going and off the ground? They maybe got ideas, or what is the secret to that first step?
Let me see. I'd say start designing, start drawing, getting your ideas on paper, right? Don't talk to too many people about it, because obviously that's your idea, and the more people you tell about it before you actually start manufacturing this stuff or start the patent process, they're just going to take it from you if you tell the wrong folks, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, you could have them sign a non-disclosure agreement and then talk to somebody. But the biggest part of it would be brainstorming, getting your designs on paper, getting somebody you trust to help you with the process, help you design. Like I assisted somebody recently with a prototype of their product. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement for it. I wasn't, it's nothing that I would want to make anyway. So I'm like, yeah, whatever, that's cool, but I'll help you out with the prototype process. But yeah, it's having that idea and taking that next step to actually take action on that idea. Because like I said before, ideas without action are just hopes and dreams, and nothing ever comes of those things. You got to put something on paper. You got to, have milestones set, like, hey, here in 2 weeks, I want to be at this step. I want to have this prototype. Here by this step, I want to have talked to an attorney, or have talked to somebody, or, whatever, gone forward on the design. It's just a matter of being creative too. Like, just don't look at things black and white. Don't stay within your lateral limits. Get get outside the box. Get outside the box a little bit. And I think that's what's worked for me is I'm very outside the box when it comes to the creative process because I look at things from all angles. I like to poke at things and see why things don't work the right way and see how I can make things work the right way. And you have to be that person, I think, if you're going to be able to create something. And it doesn't have to be about creating something. It could be about, establishing an ebook or something. I've known people who made ebooks on like top 10 things that they know best about, right? And how to do things better. And they put it on eBay and they put it on their LinkedIn, they put it on their Facebook, and people buy these things, right? I mean, I just bought a book from a guy on LinkedIn. How to LinkedIn Mastery is what it's called. And, I just bought it because I was starting LinkedIn, but the guy knows what he's talking about. So I'm like, you know what? Let me try it out. He knew about it. He wrote a book about it. He's marketing it. He's selling it. He's making money. He's becoming a success. I think just getting outside of your comfort zone, getting outside of the box would help you out in making yourself a success.
That's such great advice. It is, as somebody kind of in that position, it's difficult and it's intimidating, and you kind of like want to do something, but sometimes taking that first step is really the hardest one. Vic, this has been a really, really fun conversation. I have enjoyed chatting with you and kind of getting to know you as you kind of go through this transition process.
Thank you.
Where can people go to find out more about you and anything you want to plug, like website wise?
Yeah, so I'll plug my Undercover Clip. It's just undercoverclip.com. You can find it on Instagram or Facebook at Undercover Clip. Let me see. I don't have a website or anything. I have my LinkedIn, which is just Victor De La Flor. If you look me up, just feel free to connect or follow or reach out to me about anything really. I'm really an open book, and I'm willing to help out as much as I can with any project or anything like that. I do a lot of art. Like I said, it's a de-stressor. If there's anybody out there who, is working through PTSD or, some kind of issues, military-wise or not, check me out, and I'm willing to help out with that as well. It's just at VT De La Flor on Instagram. That's really, I'm not very creative when it came to the name. It's just at VT De La Flor.
Got to keep it simple.
Yeah, that's it. The easiest way to find me, right? But I do post a lot of my art on there. I just did Fleet Week, San Diego. I have my stuff at the Oceanside Museum of Art for a veterans exhibit. So I'm big on the whole, helping veterans, active duty, helping active duty. So please reach out. But otherwise, the easiest way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Vic, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. It was a great time.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Your listenership helps me better educate people like you and the rest of our nation's military, both past and present, on building a successful life outside of military service. If you're looking for more ways the top vets are leading more effective lifestyles, building businesses, and using the resources designed specifically for you, press here for a selection of some of the best clips. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, and I will be talking with you soon.